Some years ago, I used to work as a tech support for an internet provider. Management always put a big emphasis on only using positive language and avoiding negative or neutral statements. I wonder if I can do that with Verdant. The Doe Keeper Verdant. Unlike other Doe Keepers, this guy is a tank. Amazing. The Doe against max health from talents, meaning it can take 1 or 2 more hits before dying. Amazing. Skill 1 permanently gives him 25% health and 15 res. Damn, that sucks. Sucks the will to live out of enemy attackers. Perfect, yep, save that. Skill 2 is a display of Verdant's Mercy. He switches towards damage and gains 80 attack speed. How wonderful. To balance out this amazing DPS buff, Verdant loses 4% max health per attack, but this is actually a buff. Verdant is a Doe Keeper after all. So after he loses all of his health, the Doe triggers and then it regenerates 4% max health per second. Wait, that's it? Who makes this crap? Yeah, that didn't work at all. So obviously this dude is Frostleaf tier, and even by 4 standards he is terrible. That out of the way, is there anything we can use him for? S1 puts him at over 3000 health and 15 res, which compares poorly to Matterhorn before he even uses his own skill, so as a 4 art tank he looks subpar already. How about a situation where we can't use a defender? Well, we have Matuimaro with her 6000 health and 50% heal on S1, we have Jaya with his S2 heals, we can stall enemies with Ethan and ranged operators, and there's always the classic Beanstalk plus fast redeploy option. How about using Verdant instead of the crab? Seems questionable on paper. Verdant is tankier than the crab, but the Doe takes 20 seconds to respawn, while the crab takes 15 seconds without even mentioning Beanstalk's skill. However, Verdant has one advantage: he can be healed by a medic, and this can see some use like in my H10-1 run. Because Manfred is a ranged enemy, the Doe could also be used to tank hits and help delay him even more, something Beanstalk's crop couldn't do. However, this run also demonstrated Verdant's biggest weakness in comparison to Beanstalk. He can't willingly switch into his Doe form. When using Beanstalk, you can just retreat the crab at any point you want to start its pre-spawn timer earlier. This has many uses. You can leak a certain enemy, you can time the crab so it split boxes an enemy, etc. This is much harder to do with Verdant, and it causes me a ton of problems. The idea here was for Verdant to die to the last Manfred hit in phase 1, so Susuru doesn't waste healing on him during the phase transition. Instead, he survived with basically 0 health, and Susuru kept him alive, which nearly got her and Bubble killed. In most of my attempts while trying this run, it did actually get one of them killed. Manfred is a very weird specific example though, because his mechanics make him extremely easy to stall at fast redeploys, so Verdant is particularly good here. The common use case for the Beanstalk plus fast redeploy strategies is against some enemy that tends to one-shot, like the Steam Knight or more extreme examples. The crab kind of has the advantage there because it can come back faster than Verdant can, especially when you take Beanstalk's skill 1 into account. So he's only worth considering when we can use him together with a medic, and the medic allows him to tank a bunch of extra hits. A very rare scenario where you also won't have some other option being more efficient. As for skill 2, it's actually not as bad as it looks on paper. That is what I would say if the skill didn't also kill him. 80 attack speed on its own isn't a big deal, but switching towards can be useful versus the right enemies. Verdant attack is decently high at around 770, so the damage from the skill isn't awful. It's slightly below what you would get from other melee 4-star options like Moose or Orin. Boring, but okay, if it didn't kill him. This is where we see one of the big weaknesses of Doe Keepers, because when they switch to the Doe, they cannot regenerate any SP, so it delays the activation of their next skill. Now, normally this is justified by the Doe providing some useful effect, unless you're Verdant and your Doe does this. Because of this, the Doe is just a straight DPS loss. It delays the skill by 20 seconds while offering nothing. You can prevent this by using a medic, but it just feels so awkward. What the hell is the Doe for if it's just gonna reduce his DPS? This makes him hard to use as a heli drop, since the Doe switches in before he can do his full skill damage. Best use case is pairing his S2 with Perfumer S2 to avoid the self-Q, but his S2 isn't instant on deploy and Tagi exists, so he's kind of dead on arrival as a heli drop. How about laning? He's a bit impractical there because A, he damages himself, which puts more pressure on your medic, and he has such low defense that he would get bodied by any tougher trash enemy. He's actually tied with Acid Drop for defense, who's a ranged operator. Because of that, Verdant will just end up sucking up a bunch of healing and providing frankly mediocre damage output. So not really worth using in a lane, unless you have some specific enemy that does some one-shot bullshit and he can absorb that. I'll see if that comes up, I'll make a video on it. His Hoe Kit would make a lot more sense if Verdant S2 was like Utage S2. Instant skill activation on deploy, he drops as much damage as he can. When he kills himself, the Doe triggers, swaps him back and activates S2. That would be cooler and feel less awkward. You'd no longer need to pair him with the medic since switching the Doe isn't a direct loss in DPS. And that would make the Doe health again and the module make sense, since you would be encouraged to deploy him in more dangerous places to attack dangerous enemies, while relying on the Doe to keep him alive. Oh, I never mentioned what the Doe module does. It makes the Doe have more HP. Amazing. Yeah, he's a 4-star, nobody cares about him, so he's supposed to be dogshit. But you can make an operator that is both dogshit and has any amount of thought put into how they would be used. Jackie is a good example of this. She is without the bad operator, like all brawlers are. She has low damage and low health and an unreliable skill, and yet I've used her in various runs for both of her skills. Sometimes relying on her extremely low DP cost at 7, plus her skill 1 to kill a particular mob, and sometimes using her as a dodge tank with S2. She's not good, so she's used rarely, but she is meant to fulfill two specific purposes, being a bad heli drop and a dodge tank. Her talent and skills both help with this. The talent gives her both DPS and dodge, and helps her with both of her actual uses. One skill helps her kill trash faster, while the other helps her dodge more. Now this is a well-rounded kit, and all of the parts, the talent, the skills, come together to make the operator work. She is still weak because she's a brawler though. That's just what they are. Do you notice that when Verdant uses his S2 he puts this green effect on enemies? Do you know what it does? Nothing at all. Why is it even there?